Welcome to the Teaching Kitchen, aka my house. My name is Megan Rowe, and I am manager at St. Jude Wellness Center, and I am a registered dietitian, and my background is in culinary medicine. So everything I know about how I recommend nutrition protocols is based on adapting food, not just like, this is how many carbs you need. It's all about how we can really mess with food to make it really nourishing. So today's topic is brain boosting foods. If you did not attend our webinar on lifestyle strategies for cognitive vitality, which was last week or the week before, now I can't remember, time goes quickly. Please do jump into that recording. It's on the website under video for my Mount Sac friends. It should be on your wellness website as well. Because that has a lot of information about why we are going to be cooking these recipes today. We talk a lot about how food impacts the brain. We talked a lot about how fitness and movement impact the brain, sleep and stress resilience, dual tasking. So that will give you a lot more background. So please make sure you catch that recording as well. But this is to just kind of keep feeding, no pun intended, that your motivation to keep kind of playing around with food and messing with beloved recipes in ways that can keep accomplishing goals that you're looking for. So if your goal is brain health, let's do a quick review of what we're looking for from our food. Number one is healthy blood flow, blood pressure. We want good blood pressure, not hypertension, because a lot of cognitive decline is based in lack of blood flow. And it doesn't always mean stroke. It doesn't mean your blood flow isn't getting there. It just might not be getting there to the amount and volume we need as quickly as we want it to. And that's where we can get lack of synapses, lack of nourishment to create those connections in the brain. So we want healthy blood flow. So we're looking for nutrients that open up the blood vessels. Nitric oxide is one of these things. We're looking for nutrients that continue to promote anti-inflammation, so lots of antioxidants. The other thing we are looking at when it comes to brain health is your blood sugar. Super, super, super critical when it comes to brain health, because if there's too much sugar crossing into the blood-brain barrier, we run the risk of creating more and more and more plaques. Think of the best analogy I have for this is creme brulee. If you have sugar molecules all over the top of that pudding and then you apply heat, what happens? They caramelize, they get sticky. There's no more moving and shifting those granules around. That's the same thing in the brain. Our brain is firing. It's really, really hot up there. And so if we get too much sugar molecule into the brain, too much glucose, it creates these sticky plaques. And that's where we get cognitive decline, really elevated risk of things like dementia and Alzheimer's. So whenever we're eating, we're looking to control that blood glucose, aside from things like diabetes and prediabetes. Even if your blood sugar is great on average, your A1C is healthy, we still want to be looking at low glycemic eating, okay? The third thing, so blood flow, blood sugar, also our gut, because our gut, what is that connected to? To the brain. It's very, very, very much connected. Our brain and our gut share primarily the same microbiome, which means they share a lot of the same healthy bacteria and unhealthy bacteria. Anything you do to help the gut is going to directly impact the health of your brain. So we're talking fiber, we're talking lots and lots of phytonutrients, we're talking healthy fats, okay? And healthy fats, aside from gut health, also directly impact the brain because the brain is a fatty substance. So that's a lot to take in, but know that those are the things I'm thinking about when I pick these recipes, when I choose ingredient swaps, is I'm thinking healthy fats, gut health, aka lots of fiber, lots of antioxidants and nitric oxide for blood flow, and healthy blood sugar management. Okay, and these are obviously not the only recipes you can ever make for those things. These are just to kind of keep you creative in other ways to cook. So we're going to make 3 different recipes today. We're not really going to make any of them in totality. The salad we will, but we're going to make salmon burgers. I'm not going to make you come over and watch me like flip burgers on the stove. So I'm going to prep them and show you how to meal prep them, and you'll just have to imagine how you would then cook the burgers, and I'll talk to you about that. And then we're going to do a kind of desserty type thing that takes about 45 minutes in the oven to bake. Super easy to put together and prep for later. So we're not going to wait 45 minutes to watch our dessert bake, but I will get it all prepped for you. So that's kind of today's MO. Definitely won't take a full hour. If you have questions, type it into the chat. I will absolutely have time to get back to those toward the end. Okay, so here we go. Recipes will be posted in the link of this video. I will also send them to anyone who is registered for this class. All right, first recipe is salmon burgers with a creamy slaw. Why salmon burgers? Healthy fat. Omega-3s. Omega-3 are one of the only fats we cannot produce in our own body, and they are critical. So they're actually called essential fatty acids. They are essential to our body, and we have to get them by eating them. So that your best sources of omega-3s are fatty fish, number one, hands down. Then we have things like nuts and seeds, egg yolk, actually, if they're pasture-raised egg yolk, also pasture-raised and grass-fed animal products have some to some extent. So that's why we're using salmon. Can you use canned tuna for these? You bet. You want to make tuna burgers? Good. They also have a very good amount of omega-3s in them. I just like salmon. They're the highest in the food chain when it comes to omega-3s. So I'm using these canned salmon from Costco, Kirkland. They are wild pink salmon from Costco, which is so cool. They come in a big tube. They're pretty affordable. I find that at the regular grocery store, canned salmon is actually kind of pricey, but if you go to Costco, awesome low cost protein. So we're getting good protein, which helps with glycemic response, helps with our blood sugar. We're also getting omega-3s. So I'm going to use 2 of these cans. I'm going to put those in a second. I have 2 eggs. The eggs are a binder for the burgers. The eggs are also a good source of omega-3, choline, which helps with our brain function. It's a type of B vitamin. And again, protein and fat to help with the blood sugar balance. So I'm going to crack the eggs first. 2 of them, I did get pasture-raised eggs. That's, for me, a non-negotiable these days because they're so easy to find. And honestly, with the price of eggs, they're not that much more expensive depending on where you're going. Sprouts, they're usually $1 to $1.50 more expensive than the regular ones. And they're so much more nutrient dense. So pasture-raised eggs is one of those things in my household. I just don't even look for anything else. I don't even grab the organic or the cage-free unless there are no pasture-raised eggs there. So I'm going to whisk these up a little bit. And also just notice that dark, deep orange color. The nutrients are in the color, are in the pigment of most foods. So if you open up a regular egg, you'll notice it's kind of pale yellow in the yolk. That dark, deep orange shows you just how nutrient dense it is in antioxidants, blood flow, anti-inflammation. Great. All right, so we have 2 eggs. We're also going to do both of these cans of salmon. I already drained them earlier. This is a great way to get fish into your week. If you are not usually a fish person, this is how I started getting my husband into salmon, because when we first got married, he was like, I don't really like salmon. It kind of covers up the flavor. It's still salmony, it's still fishy, so it's not going to taste like a regular burger, but it's not quite a salmon fillet. Right? We're putting other things in there. It's a burger shape. It's a little bit different than looking at the fillet. It's a nice tiptoe into fish if you're really looking to increase your fish intake but struggling with that. It definitely smells fishy as a canned fish, but then when you cook it, it's less so. So sometimes when you cook like a fillet of fish, it makes your whole house smell fishy. This does not do that. Okay. We're also going to add some beans. So I have some dried canned kidney beans here, about a half cup. So that's usually about 1/3 of the can or so. You can eyeball it. What we're doing here is our fiber. Fiber for our gut, plus beans are another great source of protein. And beans and legumes also have some really great antioxidants in them because of literally how small they are, like seeds and nuts. They just have a whole lot of nutrients packed into a little bit. So they're a really nice protein, fat, and fiber source. And what I do is I just use a fork to mash those beans in so that it's gonna look like a hamburger mix, like all kind of mushed together. And it's totally up to you how mashed you want it. If you're someone who I don't want to taste one texture of bean in this thing, you might want to put this in a food processor and literally blend it up. That's fine too. You're not going to do any damage other than you will break down some of the fiber, but you can serve it with a bunch of veggies and make up for it that way. So that's okay. I don't mind little bits in mine, so I just kind of smash it up with my fork to get it nice and blended. The other thing too is, let's say you just don't like beans. You can add another can of tuna in, or I'm saying salmon, and ditch the beans just to get more of the fish in there. You can use different beans. Like if you wanted to make this more of a Tex-Mex type recipe, you could use black beans and cilantro and maybe some like paprika and cumin in here. That would be really yummy too. So you can mix it up. All right, so it's real kind of liquidy, so we have to add a little bit more of a binder here. So we're going to use some breadcrumbs, like 2 to 3/4 cup of breadcrumbs. This is where you get to get real creative. I'm going to use 3/4. I'm using panko, organic panko from Sprouts, which is like a little bit more of a crumbly breadcrumb. I don't know why people think panko is more healthy than regular breadcrumbs. It's all just bread. But panko is like a special way of processing it to where it's crumblier. This is what Sprouts happened to have when I went. I kind of like the thicker, crumblier texture. If you are going for a very low carb diet, a keto type diet, you can find nut-based breadcrumbs on the internet, like almond-based breadcrumbs, cashew-based breadcrumbs. You could make your own breadcrumbs out of like a keto bread, but there's no need for that unless you are trying to go really, really low carb in your diet. Like you don't want any carb at all, or maybe you're gluten-free, so you don't want regular bread. You can also find gluten-free breadcrumbs these days. But we have so much fat and protein from the beans and the salmon and the eggs. I am not worried about some breadcrumbs in here as far as a glycemic spike. This is very well controlled. And we're getting some extra fiber by putting breadcrumbs in here from a high fiber bread source. So again, mix that up. And then you get to have some fun. You add your seasonings. Salt. You could use dill. I'm using some garlic powder and the Green Goddess seasoning from Trader Joe's is like my go-to. It tastes like ranch seasoning, like ranch powder, ranch dressing, like Hidden Valley stuff. I love it. And then I'm also going to add a little bit of Dijon mustard for a little flavor, a little bit of consistency. You could do like a teaspoon or two, depending on how much you like Dijon mustard. And that's optional, truly. This is a great one for meal prepping ahead because you can make the patties and put them in a container and put them in your fridge and cook them up later. But it's also just easy. I mean, I'm sitting here gabbing to you, but if I wasn't talking to you, I would have been done with this by now and all probably halfway done making the burger patties. And then they take only 2 to 3 minutes per side on the griddle, and then you have dinner. And I like to make extra so that way I have some for lunches during the week and I just throw them on a salad. So, since I am meal prepping mine and I'm not going to be cooking them yet, I'm just going to make some patties. And you can make as many as you want, depending on how big you want them to be. Just literally like you would do with ground meat. You just make a burger patty. So I usually make a couple different sizes. My kids like them small. You could do like little slider sizes. Only downside of this recipe is then your hands kind of smell like fat. So you have to do like a pretty intense hand washing afterward. But you could wear gloves if that's something that you're very averse to. So once you are ready to cook these up, you can do them on the grill. I will say they fall apart a little bit more easily than a regular burger. So if you're going to do it on like a barbecue grill, you might want to get one of those skillet things and not just put it directly on the grill because they could fall apart and fall through the cracks. What I usually do is I just heat up some olive oil in a skillet and I cook, usually I can get 3 or 4 on my skillet at a time for 2 to 3 minutes aside until they look nice and kind of like browned on both sides. And just make sure you do have parchment or wax paper underneath them because they will stick together. And once you've made them a couple times, like I said, just kind of mess with things. Mess with the beans, mess with the seasonings, mess with how you serve them. I rarely serve these with buns just because they aren't regular burgers. Like it almost tastes funny to be having them in a bun. So like sometimes we actually call them patties in my house because my husband's kind of big on don't call it a burger if it's not a burger. So these are salmon patties, and we almost always will serve them with vegetables on a salad, maybe with some like sweet potato fries on the side or something like that. But you could serve it with a bun. There's no reason why you couldn't. Get all the goodies in there. So let's see. I made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6, and a tiny one. And they're all just kind of different sizes. So those are all separated by parchment paper. I'm going to put the lid on and put it in my fridge, and that's what we're having for dinner tonight. Let me do that deep washing. Hold on. And funny enough, my kids, who they're not that picky, but they are kind of picky with fish. They love this recipe. Like as opposed to I'll get some like real fancy salmon, do it all up, and they'll eat some of it. These ones they'll eat like crazy. So not great for freezing. So when you're meal prepping, just like be prepared to prep these this week and not, a couple of weeks from now. They don't freeze well. Okay, I'll put that in the fridge. And what are we eating our salmon burgers with tonight? I'm glad you asked. We are going to be eating them with a slaw. So right now I have about a half of a small head of cabbage and a small bunch of cilantro that I chopped up before class so they didn't have to watch me just chopping all day long. But that's all in here right now. So I don't have a dressing yet, just cilantro and cabbage. You can use purple cabbage, you can use green cabbage, you can use cilantro, you can go in a different direction and do kind of like dill, but you want an herb to give it a lot of flavor. And then the cabbage is nice and dense. Cabbage, because of its density, is amazing for meal prep because you can dress it and it really doesn't get soggy. Like you can dress it now, have it tonight for dinner, and it's really just absorbed all that good stuff. Slaws pre-made are usually real heavy in seed oils and mayonnaise, sometimes even sugars. Don't love them. Also, they always taste like really soggy mayonnaise to me, but I love a homemade slaw. So we are going to, I was going to decide if I was going to mix up my dressing or just toss it all on. I think I'll toss it all on. Instead of a mayonnaise-based dressing, we're going to do yogurt. Plain yogurt is my favorite swap for anything that calls for mayonnaise or sour cream. And if you just add a little bit of lemon juice and garlic, it's the same flavor. No one knows. So this one is Trader Joe's. They're thick and creamy. Oh my gosh, this stuff is so good. It's Greek yogurt. It's got 15 grams of protein. It's not sweetened. And it's just it's really thick and creamy. That's exactly why the title is there. So not only is this a lower saturated fat swap, we're also getting, because it's a Greek fermented yogurt, we are getting probiotics. So we're feeding our gut. We're getting some protein from the Greek yogurt, and so we're helping with blood sugar balance. Recipe calls for about a half to a quarter cup. I usually start on the lower end, and then I can always add more. It's like a quarter cup-ish. Woo, that was loud. That's giving us our creaminess, okay? That aside in case I need more. Got some lemon juice. Do a good like quarter-ish to a half cup of lemon juice. You know what I forgot is my vinegar. Hold on, we're gonna get apple cider vinegar as well. And like half the amount of lemon that you used, do that in vinegar. So usually that's like 2 tablespoons or so. Then our salt. Megan, why are you adding so much salt if blood pressure is a concern for blood health? Because natural salt, sea salt, has tons of electrolytes in them, and so they balance out the sodium content. And when you're adding your own, you're usually not adding a whole heck of a lot. Most research, in fact, all research has shown that most people are getting the majority, and we're talking 90% of their salt intake from processed foods, not from the salt shaker. So The salt really helps to soften up the cabbage, plus it just makes it taste better. And I'm not too worried about that for you unless you are on a severe salt restriction from medication. Then we might have to talk a little bit about salt substitutes. Otherwise, to be honest, most people aren't taking in enough of natural salts. They're just taking in a whole lot of processed salts. So we mix, mix, mix. I will usually also add either garlic powder or more of my green goddess seasoning. And I think I do need a little bit more yogurt. It's not quite creamy enough for my liking. So just mess with it. And then I like to let this sit for at least an hour before I serve it. You could definitely just serve it right away. It's still going to be good, but it just gets to that nice soft coleslaw consistency if you let it sit a little bit. What is the Wahoo's? That's the restaurant I'm trying to think of. If you've ever had the Wahoo citrus slaw, they do this exact same recipe, except they also add like a taco seasoning and they use lime juice instead of lemon juice. That's all it is. And people rave about it. And there's copycat recipes all over the internet. So now I'm getting probiotic, healthy bacteria that help my gut to function really well and that help my brain to function really well. I'm getting tons of fiber from the cabbage and from the cilantro that's going to feed my gut bacteria in a really healthy way. And I'm getting some protein and I'm getting some acid, which helps all of that mix up together. And I'm getting something called glucosinolates from the cabbage and from the cilantro that are really, really potent antioxidants. So this right here is awesome by itself. All we need is a little extra protein to balance it all out, make a good satiating meal. What a perfect match for the salmon burgers. So this is going to just sit here. I'm going to put it in my fridge until tonight. And tonight I will grill up our salmon burgers, put this on top, and I'll probably top it with a slice of avocado. I also have some tzatziki in our fridge from a previous night. I'll probably do a dollop of that, depending on what everybody is in the mood for. And then that's dinner. Okay, so high fiber, lots of healthy fats, omega-3s, protein, antioxidants. That's what we've got. Moving on to what will be my lunch today after I click off from you guys is another type of salad. And I don't need to be salad heavy. We can certainly get fiber and good healthy vegetables without tons of salad. But I do like to kind of showcase salad sometimes because I feel like it's just in my experience. Oftentimes salads get written off as boring or people are making the same salads all the time. And you can do so many things with salads that make it either a complete meal or just really delicious. So we're going to do a kale salad. Kale is something that my kids have never super loved unless I made kale chips. And all of a sudden I started making this recipe. And my 3-year-old is still not sure just because of the leafy greens. My 5-year-old gobbles this recipe up and literally requests it in her lunchbox. I gave it to her today because I had so much kale. And it's because it's a really good balance of sweetness and fattiness with the bitterness of kale. So kale is great because it is bitter. It's really great for our gut, for our antioxidants, for our immune system. Lots of nutrients that go straight to the brain. But it is kind of bitter tasting. And so we're going to balance that out with some fat and some sugar. So we're going to make our dressing first. Our dressing is olive oil. I'm using avocado oil. You can kind of use them interchangeably. 3-ish tablespoons. I'm making a little less because I'm just making enough for me and I'll probably have a little left over. So again, some lemon juice. So we're getting healthy, unsaturated fat from the olive oil, some acid with antioxidants from the lemon juice. I usually do either a 1-to-1 ratio or slightly more of the acid. That's just how I like it. That's not a nutritional need. You can, most recipes are the other way. They do slightly more oil. I also cheat. I have these lemon balsamic it's a company called 41 Olive. I order it online. But this lemon balsamic is fermented with lemon rinds. And so it's kind of sweet. It's like a reduction. So it's almost like adding sweetener. And I add that in as well. And then I actually am going to add a little bit of sweetener to this one because of how bitter the kale is. Come on. I'm going to add some date syrup. So we've talked a lot about sweeteners in this class. Date syrup is a low glycemic sweetener. It's only going to spike your blood sugar a little bit by itself, and we're adding it to fiber and fat in this particular recipe, so it's really not going to make a big dent in your blood sugar management. It's like a teaspoon of that. A little bit more garlic powder, so you're seeing a lot of the same ingredients here. And you could use balsamic vinegar instead, or red wine vinegar, really whatever you want. And where did my spoon go? Where my spoon went? Hang on. Just mix that up. And what I like to do is pour that on top of my kale salad from the get-go. And we do what's called massaging. Just like when you're really tense and a massage loosens you up and makes you feel better, kale is real kind of tense and sometimes hard and chewy to eat. And if you massage it with its dressing, it lightens up, it gets softer, it gets easier to eat. Just like us, just needs a good massage. So massage it up, and the longer it sits, the softer it gets. So the original recipe that you'll see that I will send out is calls for blueberries. Blueberries are usually considered one of the #1 healthy brain fruits. They're just full of antioxidants and polyphenols. They're really low glycemic by themselves, but other fruits do that too. And when I went to the store, none of the blueberries looked good. They were all kind of mushy. So I'm not going to do this with blueberries. I'm going to do this with some apples, because guess what else is really low glycemic? Apples! Now, not the like sugar bee ones, but Fuji's, green apples, stuck in there. Kind of your old school apples are really low glycemic, and you can cut them really small and tiny. Man, I cut only a half of it, and that was stuck. So this is just half of an apple, kind of cut up into little slices. Woo! Okay, adding that in instead of my blueberries. Both are delicious. They just kind of give it a different flair. You could also use dried fruit. What I do for my daughter, my 5-year-old, who gobbles this up, is dried cranberries. And she goes nuts over it. And she doesn't just pick out the cranberries. She eats the whole thing because they go really well together. Downside of dried cranberries is really hard to find them unsweetened. So you are getting a little extra sugar there. But again, we're getting a lot of fats and fiber to kind of balance that out. So I've got my apples. I'm adding sweetness. I'm also going to add some feta cheese. You could do goat cheese instead. The harder cheeses have a little bit less saturated fat, so they're better for our heart and our blood flow, which, remember, is one of our goals for brain health. So feta, Parmesan, the hard cheeses, even cheddar, less saturated fat than a brie or something that's, you're spreading onto anything. We are also going to get some healthy avocado. Avocado is like another one of those top healthy brain foods. If you're ever just Googling brain foods online, you're going to see blueberries, you're going to see greens, you're going to see avocado. Avocado is high fiber, even though it is not a crunchy, chewy food. It's got a ton of fiber. About a quarter of a large avocado like this much, has about 5 to 6 grams of fiber in it. Plus, we're getting healthy fat, which slows down digestion, keeps us full, helps with blood sugar management, feeds the gut as well. So this is just leftover from our avocado toast this morning. So it's not beautiful, but you get the idea. And just to add on to the healthy fats, we're going to add some nuts. The recipe says you can do sliced almonds, pecans, or pistachios, or walnuts would be great. All nuts have a good amount of fat ratios, which means good healthy fats to saturated fats. All nuts have a lot of something called selenium, which helps to nourish the synapses in the brain. All nuts are also really good sources of fiber. So you're getting good stuff no matter what nut you choose. Some have more of things than others. Walnuts are the highest omega-3 nut. Doesn't mean pecans don't have omega-3s, they just have slightly less than walnuts. So pick your favorite nut. I happen to have roasted pecans today. And there was just enough for my salad. So what I would say is missing from this being a complete meal is enough protein. I have a little protein from the nuts, a little bit from the cheese, but certainly not the 30 grams per meal we're looking for a truly nourishing meal. And that's not as much brain health focused as it is metabolism focused. So when I eat this for lunch, I will probably have some sort of protein along with it. We have some shredded chicken left over from last night. I've got my beans here if I want to use those instead, but otherwise, this is a fairly complete meal. We just want to add a little bit more protein. It could be a great option for an in-between meal snack. For those of you who maybe have some hunger issues or appetite issues where you're not able to eat a whole lot at one time. Maybe you're trying to get more fiber into your diet. This is a really, I mean, look at that. If you were to have a snack, it's a full bowl of food. So it'll be really satiating, but give you a lot of nutrients as well. All right, so there's our other salad in addition to our slaw. And finally, and remember, you can put questions in the chat. I see one over there. I will get to that one. Finally, we are going to make our dessert, which you could maybe have for breakfast too. We are going to do stuffed baked apples. This is a fan favorite in my household. Let me get rid of the beans. Just because they're so good. They taste so decadent and they're really easy to make. That's heavy. All right, so first of all, we are going to prep our dish. I have a baking dish. We're going to prep it with a little bit of oil. I got some date syrup. That was delicious. You can grease your pan any way you want. When you grease the pan, you're really not absorbing a whole heck of a lot of that fat. But knowing we're trying to make all the best choices and optimize, I'm going to put some coconut oil in as my greaser. Coconut oil, very high in saturated fat, so not quite as good for blood flow. However, it's called a medium chain triglyceride. The type of fat structure of this saturated fat is one that is directly absorbed across the blood-brain barrier into the brain. So it actually nourishes the brain in really small amounts. So do I want you cooking everything with coconut oil as your primary oil? No, you're going to use some by the brain and you're going to store the rest as saturated fat in your body. But little bits, like when you're greasing a dish that's going to be sweet anyway, if a dish calls for butter, swap it out for coconut oil. You're at saturated fat anyway, and you're getting a more nourishing one. So I use coconut oil really strategically, but know that it is a brain healthy fat in small amounts. So I just greased that. I have 4 apples. Remember how low glycemic apples are, and they're very high in fiber, which we love. I have 4 apples that I already cored. So I cored them this morning, so they turned a little brown on the inside, so don't be grossed out. But that's what they look like. They are not beautiful. I don't have an apple corer. That would make this gorgeous if you were going to be like serving to people you cared what they thought about. I don't care what my kids and my husband think as far as the beauty of it. They taste great, and you're not going to see the inside because we're going to stuff it. So it really doesn't matter, but it is a little wonky. I just used a paring knife and kind of scored out the inside. You just don't want to cut all the way through the bottom because you want to keep the stuffing inside the apple. So here's my 4 apples. They're all cored and ready. And we are going to stuff them with almond butter. You could use peanut butter, you could use cashew butter, you could use walnut butter. I mean, there's so many different ones out there. I don't know why, for desserts, I really love the flavor of almond butter. I feel like it's maybe sweeter than peanut butter. I don't know. I love peanut butter, but there's something about almond butter in desserts that I feel like there's something special about it. Almonds also have a good amount of omega-3s as compared to peanuts. So we're going to do, I don't know, not quite a tablespoon, like 1 to 2 teaspoons of almond butter into, man, I'm having trouble scooping that out, into the inside of each apple. So if we think about the glycemic impact here, we have a carbohydrate, our apple. It's low glycemic, but it's still a carbohydrate. It's still a fruit that's going to give us a little bit of a blood sugar response. We are partnering that with a lot of fat and protein by adding a serving of almond butter to the inside of them, and that will balance out the blood sugar spike we get from it. So this is really strategic. A, it tastes delicious. Apples with nut butter, like the best. But also you are going to have less of a blood sugar response because of the fat in that almond butter. And again, doesn't have to be gorgeous. All right. Well, good. When you are buying nut butters or seed butters, check the ingredients, please. They are very notorious for having added palm oil or added sweeteners and sugars. Even if they say all natural, even if they say organic, even if it's one brand that you've had before. I had this actually happen to me where I was buying, forget what brand it was now actually, but I had bought their creamy almond butter for a while, knowing that it was just almond butter. And then I went and bought their crunchy one, didn't even think of it, just trusted the brand. The crunchy one was sweetened. Why? I don't know. So always do a double check. This is the Sprouts brand. This is just the one I grabbed. I never want to buy the same brand of nut butters. Ingredients: dry roasted almonds, sea salt. No oils, no sweeteners. They're in every store. You just might have to turn a couple over. They're everywhere, okay? So they're not hard to find. So now we have to make our topping. Comes from 2 tablespoons of olive oil or melted ghee or more melted coconut oil if you want. I just kind of like it with olive oil, to be honest. I think I added quite enough. I don't think that's quite 2 tablespoons. And our sweetener, we're going to go with that low glycemic date syrup. You could use allulose, you could use monk fruit, you could use honey or maple syrup as well. You just have to know that those are slightly higher glycemic. Man, this is sticky today. Which is fine. I mean, we're talking 2 tablespoons, so it's not like per apple you're getting a whole lot of sweetener. I just like to, if I can make a lower glycemic choice, I will. But you know, you're not gonna see a huge spike no matter what here. There we go. Getting toward the bottom of my container. That's why it's so slow. Okay, and then we're going to do cinnamon, like a half teaspoon, and nutmeg, like a quarter teaspoon, and just a pinch of salt. And stir that all up as best you can. And then you're going to drizzle this. Oh, it's still a little sticky. You're going to drizzle this over the top of your apples, trying to like spread out that gooey sweetener as much as you can so it's not all on just one of them. And try and make sure, if you can, that like the apples are as coated as possible in whatever fat you're using. Using the fat also reduces the glycemic impact of the apple, but it's also going to help it cook. Okay, you're going to turn your oven to 400 degrees. You're going to pop this in for about 45 minutes, and it's going to get real soft. Like if you push it, if you put a fork into it, it'll go right in, come right out. There'll be some juices at the bottom. It may need 50 minutes. It may need, a little bit longer depending on your oven. And then you are done. So this is going to sit for me until tonight. We're going to have this as a dessert after our meal, which is great because our meal, the salmon patties over slaw, is really low carb. This is going to give us a little bonus carb. It's going to feel more satiating at the end because we got dessert after a really low carb dinner. But it's not done yet. Hold on. We're going to make a topping. So they're delicious on their own. So good. You could add some walnuts on top, call it a day. But if you want to get fancy, you can make a sauce out of kefir. Kefir is liquid yogurt. That's all it is. So again, we're getting probiotic. We're getting protein. We're getting calcium, and we're getting vitamin D that are helping with our bones too. So all of that goes together. Make sure you get unsweetened plain kefir. I use this all the time, like instead of milk and things, like when I'm making oatmeal and things like that. And then you're gonna get your favorite vanilla protein powder. And this is gonna make it sweet. So I like Just Ingredients. That's what brand this is. Love, love, love them. Their French vanilla is amazing, and it's a mix of whey and collagen powder. And it's monk fruit or stevia sweetened, depending on the flavor you get. And you just add some of that to your kefir. It's going to thicken it up and sweeten it up. And you could add cinnamon to it if you want. I make this all the time when we're having like pancakes or waffles, or maybe if the kids just want dessert. And so I give them some strawberries with sauce on top. And this just makes it a little bit more special and sweet and a little fancy. And it's just protein powder. So we're feeding the gut with the probiotic. We're feeding everything else, all of our tissues with protein powder. We're not making it excessively sweet. And it just makes a nice sauce, right? A little bit thicker. And you can add more powder to thicken it up. You could add regular yogurt if you want it really thick. So when I have these gooey stuffed peanut almond buttery apples, I take them out, I let them cool for maybe 10 minutes. I drizzle this on top with some walnuts, and it's just like this decadent dessert that took me 5 minutes to prepare. Is low glycemic, is helping with blood flow because we're getting nitric oxide from the apples. And we're feeding the gut and the probiotic and all the fiber. So we're hitting all those things with every single one of those recipes. So let me pull these back out so you can see we've got baked apples with our sauce. We've got a kale fruit avocado salad for lunch. And we've got our salmon patties with our slaw. Everything ready to go. Lunch and dinner and dessert. Feeding the brain, feeding the gut, all the things. So exciting. So let me get to your questions because we wrapped up early today. Hi, Cindy. Can you show the Trader Joe's yogurt? Yes, I can. If you have questions, just pop them in that chat. Trader Joe's strained, thick and creamy Greek yogurt, plain. So it's made from whole milk yogurt, so do keep that in mind. It's a whole milk one. It's not a low fat. They don't have a low fat option. I have no problems with that, other than if weight loss or weight management is a goal, you'd want to factor that into your caloric intake. So if you're someone who likes to put like tons of nuts and seeds and nut butters on your yogurt, you might want to use a little less than that, or just have a smaller portion if you're watching calorie intake. The fat content, I'm really not as worried about. It just kind of depends on how you're eating it. And it's just so good. Skim milk and cultures. That's what's in here. It's just yummy. Yes, the kefir too. Yes. This one is Lifeway. They're organic plain kefir. I'm not married to this brand necessarily. I like this one because they tend to always have plain at the store. I got this at Sprouts. Trader Joe's has goat milk kefir, and it is plain, and that's a good one. When I'm at Trader Joe's, I grab that one. There's a couple of other brands, but this one is Lifeway. What is in the Green Goddess spike? That's a good, or spike. I said spike, I meant spice. Green Goddess spice, this is specifically Trader Joe's. It is dried minced onion, salt, granulated garlic, ground black pepper, dried chives, dried green onion, spinach powder, lemon powder, dried parsley, and safflower oil. So it does have the safflower oil. It's not a lot. It doesn't even register on the total fat on the numbers. A lot of spice blends have an oil so that it keeps them separated so they don't clump. But everything else is a good natural ingredient. This tastes like the Hidden Valley ranch dressing mix. I tell you, it's so good. I have it all the time. Would you use it to season your chicken? Absolutely. I have so many times before. Like, this is probably my go-to seasoning when I'm not feeling creative. I don't really know exactly what I'm doing. I'm just making chicken and vegetables and rice for dinner, or fish and vegetables and pasta. Like, I'm just doing something. I'll throw this on there because I know it'll make it taste good. So for chicken, I'll do a drizzle of olive oil, lemon juice, and this. Very common for me in my house to do that. I really like this on roasted potatoes too. Those are probably my go-tos. Any other questions? I do just want to show you. I should get commission from this brand, but it's called 41 Olive. I can only find them on their own website online. They have all these different flavors of balsamic reductions. So they have this lemon one. Their regular balsamic is just, they're thick and sweet. And so a little bit goes a long way, and you don't have to add sugar or sweetener to your dressing if you're using them. Big fan. You need a Christmas gift to give me. You can give me that. Yay, so healthy. Awesome. Amazing. Well, I will give you the rest of your afternoon back. This recording will be posted in the next day-ish along with the recipes. But again, if you registered for class, I will just email you directly with the recipes as well. And remember to show me what you're making. If you made this, but you did it with a different ingredient or something, post it online at St. Jude Wellness Center or at RD Megan. That's me personally. Obviously, the Wellness Center is the Wellness Center, or email me. And next month, we don't have a cooking class, we just have a webinar. Also, I'm teaching a brand new 4-part series using continuous glucose monitors to manage blood sugar levels. If you're interested in that, next Thursday, I have a free webinar to discuss the program, to basically let you know what it is that you're buying into, because it is a 4-cost program. So if you're just kind of interested in what that means, would it be a good program for you, sign up for that webinar next Thursday. But otherwise, there's always free stuff going on. And with the holidays around the corner, we also have blog posts for Halloween ideas, things like that. So check back in, and I will see everyone later on. Have a great rest of your week. Bye, everybody.